All right, listen up. This is probably going to be the most positive video we've had so far. We have 3 more weeks until Christmas, and I'm honestly extremely excited about this. Now, today, I want to talk to you about how you can use performance in your day-to-day life. And no, don't worry. I'm not going to teach you how to use Excel files to track your expenditures, and not going to talk about color coding your to-do list like a corporation. No, this is about something else. This is about how we can take the ideas behind organizational performance management and adapt them for our own lives in a way in which it's helpful and hopefully a little bit fun as well. Maybe this wave of optimism has something to do with the fact that I've just come back from my annual ski trip and my brain is still kind of on the slope, freezing in the snow, enjoying some adrenaline, and having double the amount of recommended hot chocolate. But being there actually got me thinking. I do use a lot of performance management principles in my own life, especially when it comes to sports, just not in the corporate boring way. Nobody's giving me an annual appraisal for skiing, thankfully, but I still keep track of my progress and growth. Now, before we dive in, fair warning, some of these stories might sound a little, well, slightly crazy, but just a bit. Hopefully you're here for some fun as well. Just roll with it for a bit. Let me also start with a little disclaimer about myself. I am, at my core, a mix of chaos and order. I am a pretty organized person. I love a good plan, a tight schedule, color-coded notes or Excel files, and to this day, I am very, very proud of my 10 tabs wedding file, which maybe I should sell someday. But at the same time, my brain is kind of a circus and filled with chaos. Now, inspiration hits me out of nowhere most times. I have 10 different plans during the same time, and I would jump from one idea to another in the span of a few seconds. So yeah, I am that person who has a very well-planned calendar, but might probably ask where their phone is about 10 times a day. That's why performance tracking actually works very well for me in some areas, but completely fails in others. And that's perfectly fine, because what works for you might not work for me, or the other way around. The point is to try to figure out your own version of it. And no, you should not become a robot that tracks everything down in a spreadsheet. And probably you shouldn't do your own performance report or your spouse's performance report. But you get the point. Now, where I actually track my performance, if you want to call it that, is usually in sports and whenever I'm trying to learn a new skill. Take driving, for example. I'm currently in the process of getting my license, and I've tried to turn it into a mini science experiment just to keep me entertained. My chosen performance metric is how many times will my engine stop while driving. Yep, this is my success indicator, because the first time someone tried to teach me how to drive, this was my kryptonite and a big contributor to the fact that I still don't have a license to this day. And I'm very proud to report that at this stage, it stopped exactly 0 times. Now, no engines were harmed in the experiment, and also no pedestrians, I promise, because I'm a pedestrian myself as well. Though, to be fair, I've only had 3 lessons out of 15 by now, so there's plenty of time for improvement or a slight disaster, but we'll see how it goes. Another metric I'm tracking is how many times will it take me to pass my practical exam. My dream scenario is definitely passing it from the first trial. But this is Romania, where although everyone drives like a maniac after they get their license, somehow taking your license from the first trial seems to be very hard, which I don't exactly understand where this knowledge and attention goes once you have your license. Anyway, speaking of questionable driving, I've also kept a mental score of how many cars were about to run me over while crossing the street on a zebra, green light, but to be fair, that's a rant for another time. So yeah, this is where my head has been lately, thinking about how we can take these big, formal, organizational ideas of performance and turn them into small, personal, and more human ways to grow. I really hope you'll enjoy this more relaxed, slightly chaotic, and more personal episode, because honestly, this is where I'm at right now. So this whole personal performance journey of mine started by accident with a steps competition I joined a few years back. It ran for a month, and all the money raised went to a good cause. So this made it feel even better. Now, I've always been the type to walk a lot. I'm that person who will probably walk instead of waiting for the bus for 10 minutes. So this isn't exactly new territory for me. But that year, I had something new on my wrist, and that was my first tracking band. And let me tell you, that was a complete game changer. I suddenly had charts, numbers, streaks, and that tiny dopamine hit every time I reached my targets. I started setting targets for myself and my team that first year, and then I set bigger ones the next year and bigger ones the next year. It basically became a whole tradition. Last year, my personal aim was not only to beat my overall result from the previous year. No. I went into full overachiever mode and I wanted to walk more every single day of the competition. For example, if on day 5 of 2023 I walked 20,000 steps, then on day 5, 2024, I was supposed to walk at least 20,000 steps and one. And yes, even one step counted. That's about how committed I was. And you know what? I actually only missed my mark in one day, so I think I did pretty good, all things considered. And then the miracle happened. I officially earned my Super Walker title, which is basically the cool kids club of the competition. It gives you bragging rights and imaginary glory, much like my Garmin watch and the competitions I enroll in every single month. And no, this is not a sponsored video. This is really where my whole spark came from. That competition was the kickoff of this whole idea of tracking my individual performance in sports. Fast forward to 5th of June this year, when I decided to up the stakes. Now, I entered the competition with myself, the best kind of competition. Basically, me against myself, no other judges, no other people reviewing my performance. The aim? To walk the equivalent of the Appalachian Trail, about 3,500 kilometers in less than 1 year. And well, things escalated quickly because 5 months in, I've already walked 2,050 kilometers, which I know might be a little bit excessive, but please don't judge. I do check my progress several times a day. I have a target that changes every day depending on how much I walked the previous days, and I know it's a lot, but it keeps me motivated, and that's the whole purpose, is it not? Now, back to my story. Obviously, my brain was like, good, we have made it so far, why not make it harder? So instead of 1 year, I shifted my deadline to 9 months. And this is where we are right now. With winter right around the corner, temperatures dropping fast, and all my friends dropping one by one, we'll see how things go. But I think there's a real chance of future me walking alone in the cold and questioning every single life decision that led me to this point. But hey, this is what performance is all about, right? Setting goals, tracking progress, and occasionally wondering if you've lost your mind somewhere along the trail. Speaking of, during my last hike this year, I've had one of those moments that really made me realize how far I've gone down the performance tracking rabbit hole. So there I was, ready to hit the trail, when we realized that the proper road actually ended about 4 kilometers before the starting point of the hike. We had to walk those kilometers in a bit of mud. Obviously, most people were complaining and they were quite upset about that. But I was just standing there thinking, oh, great, 8 more kilometers to my target today. So yeah, if there was one person overly enthusiastic that the hike just got longer, that was me, calculating how that unexpected 8 extra kilometers would look on my step tracker that day. Now, kilometers aren't the only thing I track. They're probably just the most time-consuming, biggest project I've had this year. That, together with my quest of climbing Garmin ranks as fast as humanly possible. But that's a marathon though, and not a sprint. It's a long-term project, about 3.5 years in the making, and maybe 6 to 7 more years to go. But I'm sure I'll make it through. Now, my other great love and pain is skiing. I'll be honest, I'm not great at it. I feel I'm still in my newbie era, and that's mostly because after I learned how to ski the first time, I took a pretty long break, so I'm just relearning everything right now. My aim is simple. I just want to become an average intermediate skier that doesn't panic when they see a patch of ice or some other people on the slopes appearing out of nowhere. Because honestly, people on the slopes are my biggest fear. Forget the ice. It's the humans that scare me. Especially when I'm cruising along at granny speed and someone zooms past me like they're competing in the Olympics or something. For the past 2 years, I've been working on one main thing: speed. That's my current performance metric, together with resistance, meaning how many kilometers I can ski before my legs turn jelly and I just want to go home and enjoy a cozy evening. I track my average speed as well as my top speed, though I'm not quite sure why I bothered with that one. But of course, performance is not just about stats, it's also about improvement. And whenever I see my performance slipping or about to slip, I do try to take some corrective actions in order to make sure I am either maintaining or growing, hopefully. Like this summer, for example, I spent about 2 weeks in the Middle East at 45 degrees Celsius with about 80% plus humidity. And that basically meant walking outside was an impossible task for me. So what I did was to jump on a treadmill and do my kilometers running instead of walking. Now, not only did it help to keep me consistent, but it also helped with other things, such as my stamina, my endurance, and shout out to my VO2 max, which got a very nice boost out of that. And with skiing, I took a similar approach. I decided to upgrade my gear in order to match my new skill level. And this is something that helped me greatly with my stability and my speed. So while for some of you might feel like I'm just collecting random numbers on an app, each of these little performance experiments actually helped me grow, both physically and mentally. And maybe they can also teach me a little bit of patience, but I can't promise that. I've actually started applying the same performance formula to so many other areas of my life, not just sports. Think baking, writing my PhD, and honestly, it works. As long as you don't go completely overboard with it. Maybe a little obsessive, it's fine. It's a great way to stay focused and organized. The key is to use it as a tool to keep yourself accountable and help yourself grow, not to drown in spreadsheets or PowerPoints, because nobody needs to be their own middle manager. Now, I'm curious. Have you done something similar? Used a little performance management trick in your own life? Tell me in the comments if it actually helped you keep yourself motivated, if it helped you improve, or if it just made you very stressed. I genuinely hope that this video gave you a bit of inspiration, or at least a good laugh, and I would really love to hear your stories about this. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos where we try to make organizational performance a little bit more bearable, try to make sense of how organizations work, or sometimes cool them out. Thanks for hanging out.